I banned my stepmom from my wedding for insulting my fiancé. Dad threatened to cut me off, and mom tried to sabotage everything. Now they want to meet their grandchild. But I have other plans. 28F. Never thought I'd be writing this. But here I am, caught in a whirlwind of family drama just weeks before my wedding to Sean, 30M. We've been together for 5 years, engaged for 1, and our wedding is set for next month. What should be the happiest time of our lives has turned into a nightmare of family politics and hurt feelings. To understand the situation, you need to know a bit about my family history. My parents, Craig, 55M, and Elizabeth, 53F, divorced when I was 18. It wasn't amicable. Dad had been having an affair with his secretary, and when Mom found out, all hell broke loose. The divorce was messy, with both of them using me and my twin brothers, Max and Leo, 25M, as pawns in their games. During this time, I grew close to my stepmom, Karen, 50F, who had been in my life since I was 12. She was the one who helped me navigate college applications and move into my dorm while my parents were too busy fighting each other. Over the years, Karen became more of a mother to me than Elizabeth ever was. Fast forward to last year. Dad remarried to Cindy, 48F, a woman he met at a golf club. From the start, Cindy and I didn't click. She's one of those people who always has to be the center of attention, and she often makes backhanded compliments that leave you feeling insulted but unable to call her out on it. I tried to maintain a cordial relationship with Cindy for Dad's sake. I even invited her to my bridal shower, despite Karen's concerns. That's when things started to go downhill. At the bridal shower, Cindy had too much champagne and started making snide comments about Sean's job as a high school teacher. She kept asking him when he was going to get a real job and implying that he wouldn't be able to provide for me. What Cindy didn't know, because she never bothered to ask, is that Sean is not just a teacher, but also a published author working on his second novel. Sean, being the saint he is, tried to laugh it off, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. I confronted Cindy later that night, and she dismissed my concerns, saying she was just joking and that I needed to lighten up. The final straw came at our engagement party a few weeks later. Cindy cornered my maid of honor, Sarah, 27F, and started interrogating her about Sean's past relationships. Sarah and Sean dated briefly in college before Sean and I met, which Cindy somehow found out about. She insinuated that Sean might still have feelings for Sarah and that she should warn me before it was too late. Sarah, being the amazing friend she is, shut Cindy down and immediately told me what happened. I was furious. Not only was Cindy disrespecting my relationship, but she was also trying to create drama where there was none. Sean and Sarah's past relationship has never been an issue for any of us. We're all good friends now. I told my dad that Cindy was no longer welcome at our wedding. I explained everything that had happened, hoping he would understand. Instead, he begged me to reconsider, saying that it would be embarrassing for him to attend alone. He tried to downplay Cindy's behavior, saying she was just trying to look out for me and that I was being too sensitive. Now, Dad is threatening not to come to the wedding if Cindy isn't invited. He says I'm tearing the family apart and that I need to learn to forgive. But I don't think I should have to tolerate someone who has repeatedly disrespected my fiancé and tried to sabotage our relationship. To make matters worse, my mom, Elizabeth, is adding fuel to the fire. She's always been jealous of my relationship with Karen. When I was younger, she would try to buy my affection with expensive gifts, while Karen was the one who actually showed up for my school events and helped me with my homework. Now, Elizabeth's using this situation to try and wedge herself back into my life. She's been calling me daily, offering to support me through this difficult time. She even suggested that I should uninvite Karen to appease my dad and Cindy. I shut that down immediately, reminding her that Karen has been there for me through thick and thin, unlike her. Elizabeth didn't take that well. She started crying, saying I was ungrateful and that she had always done her best. She brought up how hard the divorce had been on her, as if that excused her absence during my formative years. I feel guilty, but at the same time, I'm tired of managing her emotions. I feel like I'm being pulled in a million different directions. Sean is supportive, but says he'll respect whatever decision I make. He's worried about how this is affecting me and has offered to elope instead. Part of me is tempted, but we've already put so much time and money into planning this wedding. My brothers, Max and Leo, are staying out of it, saying they don't want to get involved in the drama. I understand their position, but part of me wishes they would back me up. They've always been closer to Dad than I have, and I worry this situation might drive a wedge between us. Karen has been my rock through all of this. She's offered to help in any way she can, even offering to cover Dad's portion of the wedding expenses if he follows through on his threat. I'm grateful for her support, but I feel guilty about potentially coming between her and Dad. To add another layer to this mess, Sean's family is starting to get concerned. His mom, Patricia, 58F, called me yesterday asking if everything was okay. Apparently, my mom had reached out to her, trying to get her to talk me into reconciling with Cindy. I was mortified and had to spend an hour reassuring Patricia that everything was fine. I'm at a loss. The wedding is supposed to be about Sean and me, but it feels like it's turning into a family circus. I've always dreamed of having a big wedding surrounded by loved ones. But now I'm wondering if it's worth all this stress. Part of me wants to stand my ground and have the wedding without Cindy and my dad if necessary. Another part of me wonders if I'm overreacting and should just let Cindy come for the sake of keeping the peace. And a small, increasingly loud part of me wants to call the whole thing off and elope. I don't know what to do. How do I navigate this mess without completely alienating my family? Is it wrong of me to prioritize my feelings and Sean's comfort over family harmony? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. It really helped me gain some perspective on the situation. Unfortunately, things have only gotten more complicated. After much soul-searching and long conversations with Sean, I decided to stand my ground and keep Cindy uninvited. I called my dad to explain my decision, hoping that if I laid out all my reasons calmly, he would understand. The conversation didn't go as planned. Dad started by trying to guilt-trip me, saying I was breaking his heart and that he had always imagined walking me down the aisle. When that didn't work, he changed tactics and offered a compromise. He suggested that Cindy could come to the ceremony but leave before the reception. I was tempted to agree just to keep the peace, but then I remembered all the hurtful things Cindy had said and done. I told Dad that my decision was final. That's when he dropped a bombshell. He said if Cindy wasn't welcome, then he wouldn't be giving me away or contributing to the wedding financially. I was shocked. Dad had promised to pay for the flowers and the band, which was a significant portion of our budget. The conversation brought up a lot of old hurt. I reminded Dad how he wasn't there for me during the divorce, how he missed my college graduation because he was on a cruise with his then-girlfriend. I told him that Karen had been more of a parent to me than he had in years. He didn't take that well and hung up on me. I ended the call feeling hurt and betrayed. Sean was furious when I told him what happened. He suggested we elope, saying that my happiness was more important than any big ceremony. I was tempted, but the thought of giving up the wedding we've been planning for months because of my family's drama made me angry. The next day, I received a series of text messages from Cindy. She called me selfish and immature, saying I was tearing the family apart over a few harmless jokes. She even threatened to show up at the wedding anyway, saying I couldn't stop her from supporting her husband. Her messages brought me back to my childhood, reminding me of the times my parents would use me to get back at each other during their divorce. I blocked her number, but the stress was getting to me. I confided in Karen, who was appalled by Dad and Cindy's behavior. Without hesitation, she offered to cover the costs Dad was backing out on. I was touched by her generosity, but I felt guilty accepting such a large amount of money. That's when my brothers Max and Leo surprised me. They said they had been saving up to buy a car, but instead they wanted to contribute that money to the wedding. I was overwhelmed by their support and initially refused, but they insisted. They said seeing me happy on my wedding day was more important than any car. Leo confessed that he had overheard some of Dad and Cindy's conversations about the wedding. Apparently, Cindy had been pushing Dad to demand she be invited, saying it was a matter of respect. This information made me feel a bit better about my decision, knowing that Cindy was actively trying to create drama. With Karen and my brother's help, we managed to rework our budget without Dad's contribution. It's tight, but we'll make it work. Sean and I have decided to cut back on some of the extras we had planned. No ice sculpture or dove release, but honestly, those things seem trivial now. However, the family drama was far from over. Somehow my mom Elizabeth found out about the situation. I suspect one of my aunts might have told her, as Mom has always been good at pumping relatives for information. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, crying and begging me to reconsider my relationship with Sean. Mom said this wedding drama was a sign from the universe that I was making a mistake. She even brought up Sean's ex-girlfriend from college, insinuating that they were still in touch. I know for a fact this isn't true. Sean's ex moved to Australia years ago and they haven't spoken since. I'm not sure where Mom got this information, but I suspect she might have been snooping on social media. I was furious and asked her to leave. As she was going, she said something that chilled me to the bone. If you go through with this wedding, don't expect me to be there. I slammed the door in her face, but her words kept ringing in my ears. Now, I'm facing the prospect of neither of my biological parents attending my wedding. Sean is being incredibly supportive, but I can see the toll this is taking on him too. Last night, I found him looking at our engagement photos with tears in his eyes. When I asked what was wrong, he said he felt guilty for being the cause of all this family strife. I assured him that none of this was his fault, but I know he's still beating himself up about it. Sean's family has been great through all of this. His mom, Patricia, called to check in on us and offered to help in any way she could. She even offered to reach out to my parents, but I asked her not to. I'm worried about dragging Sean's family into this mess. We're moving forward with the wedding plans, but my heart is heavy. I never imagined my wedding would cause such a rift in my family. I'm trying to stay focused on the fact that I'm marrying the love of my life, but it's hard to feel excited when there's so much tension. I've started having nightmares about the wedding. In one, I'm walking down the aisle alone and all the guests are whispering about how my parents aren't there. In another, Cindy shows up in a white dress and tries to object during the ceremony. I wake up in a cold sweat, and Sean holds me until I calm down. We've considered postponing the wedding, but I don't want to let my family's drama dictate our lives. Plus, we'd lose deposits on the venue and vendors. It feels like there's no good solution. I could really use some advice on how to handle the big day if my parents follow through on their threats not to attend. How do I explain their absence to the other guests? Should I ask someone else to walk me down the aisle? Or should I walk alone? And how do I deal with the emotional fallout of having my parents miss one of the biggest days of my life? Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, and our wedding was last weekend. I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me stay strong through all of this. The week leading up to the wedding was intense. My dad made one last attempt to change my mind. He showed up at our apartment with Cindy in tow, saying they wanted to apologize and make amends. However, it quickly became clear that their idea of an apology was telling me to stop being so sensitive and learn to take a joke. Cindy even had the audacity to say that she was just trying to toughen me up, because marriage isn't easy. She brought up her own failed first marriage, implying that Sean and I were doomed to fail if we couldn't handle a few harsh words. I was speechless, but Sean stepped in and asked them to leave. Dad said some hurtful things as they left, including that I was dead to him. It was painful, but it reinforced that I had made the right decision. Mom, on the other hand, took a different approach. She started calling all our relatives, telling them her version of events, and trying to get them to boycott the wedding. She painted herself as the victim, saying I was choosing my stepmother over her, and that Sean had turned me against my family. Fortunately, most of our relatives saw through her manipulation and reached out to me directly to get the true story. My Aunt Maria, Mom's sister, was particularly supportive. She shared some stories about Mom's behavior when they were younger, which helped me understand that this wasn't about me. It was about Mom's own issues. A few distant aunts and uncles sided with Mom, sending me lengthy emails about the importance of family and forgiveness. I didn't respond to any of them. Their absence wasn't a great loss, considering I hadn't seen most of them since I was a child. The day before the wedding, I got an anonymous text saying that Cindy was planning to show up anyway. We hired extra security for the venue, just in case. The thought of having to deal with gatecrashers on my wedding day was stressful, but Karen and my brothers reassured me that they would handle any drama. The wedding day itself was complicated. Walking down the aisle without my dad was hard. I had always imagined him by my side, but instead I walked alone. Karen and my brothers were there for me, though. Leah walked me halfway down the aisle, then Max took over for the second half. It wasn't traditional, but it felt right. The ceremony was beautiful. Sean and I wrote our own vows, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. During the reception, I looked around at all the people who had come to support us. Sean's family, our friends, my supportive relatives. And I felt overwhelmed with love. There was one surprise guest, my childhood best friend, Emma, 28F, whom I hadn't seen in years. We had drifted apart after high school when she moved across the country for college. It turns out my brothers had tracked her down and invited her as a surprise. Seeing her again and catching up was one of the highlights of the day. Emma shared some old stories from our childhood, including the time we tried to run away to Disneyland with nothing but our piggy banks and a map drawn in crayon. It was a welcome bit of levity amidst all the family tension. As for my parents, neither of them showed up. It hurt, I won't lie. There were moments during the day when their absence hit me hard, during the father-daughter dance, which I ended up doing with Sean's dad, and when it came time for the family photos. But surrounded by so much love and support, I realized that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who stand by you, who support you unconditionally. Karen, who helped me with my dress and calmed my nerves before the ceremony. My brothers, who gave heartfelt speeches that had everyone in tears. Happy ones this time. Sean's parents, who welcomed me into their family with open arms. One moment that really stood out was when Sean's mom, Patricia, pulled me aside during the reception. She gave me a beautiful necklace that had belonged to Sean's grandmother, saying she wanted me to have it as something old. The gesture meant more to me than I could express. There were no gatecrashers, thankfully. Either the anonymous text was a false alarm or Cindy thought better of showing up. Either way, I was grateful. Sean and I are now on our honeymoon, taking some much-needed time away from all the drama. We're in Bali, surrounded by beautiful beaches and lush forests. It's a stark contrast to the chaos of the past few months, and exactly what we needed. We're focusing on our future together and the family we want to build. One based on love, respect, and support. Sean and I have had long talks about what we want our life to look like, and how we can avoid repeating the mistakes of our parents. I'm still processing everything that's happened, but I know I made the right choice. To everyone facing similar family drama, stay strong. Your wedding day should be about celebrating your love, not managing toxic relationships. Update 3. It's been 6 months since the wedding, and I wanted to give one final update on how things have played out. Sean and I returned from our honeymoon feeling refreshed and ready to start our new life together. The first few weeks of married life were blissful, but reality soon set in as we dealt with the aftermath of the wedding drama. My dad and Cindy have maintained their stance of not speaking to me. They've gone as far as to block me on all social media and have told the rest of the family not to give me any information about them, It hurts, but I'm coming to terms with the fact that this might be a permanent situation. Last month, I ran into my cousin at the grocery store. She let slip that Dad and Cindy had gone on a cruise. The same cruise line and route that Sean and I had talked about for our honeymoon before deciding on Bali. I don't know if it was a coincidence or a deliberate jab, but it stung. Mom, on the other hand, has been trying to worm her way back into my life. She sent multiple apology texts, but they all boil down to, "I'm sorry you feel that way," rather than taking responsibility for her actions. The latest one blamed her behavior on empty nest syndrome and asked me to understand how hard it's been for her. I've maintained minimal contact, only responding when absolutely necessary. The most unexpected development came from my brothers. The whole wedding situation seems to have been a wake-up call for them regarding our parents' behavior. They've started setting boundaries with Mom and Dad, which has led to some heated family arguments. Last week, Leo called me in tears after a particularly nasty fight with Dad. I feel guilty that they're now dealing with the brunt of our parents' displeasure, but they assure me they're okay, and that it was long overdue. Karen continues to be an amazing support. She's been helping Sean and me navigate this new family dynamic, offering advice when we need it, but also respecting our space. She and Sean have actually grown quite close, which warms my heart. Last month, she helped Sean surprise me with a beautiful handmade bookshelf for our new apartment. On a happier note, reconnecting with Emma at the wedding has led to rekindling our friendship. She's moved back to our city for work, and it's been wonderful having her back in my life. We've started a weekly brunch tradition, and it's become something I really look forward to. She's been a great support through all of this, offering an outside perspective on the family drama. Sean and I are doing well. We've started couples therapy, not because we're having problems, but because we want to make sure we have the tools to communicate effectively and support each other, especially given all the family stress. It's been really helpful in processing everything that's happened. We've also made a decision about starting our own family. We're going to start trying for a baby next year. It's bittersweet, knowing that our child might not have a relationship with my parents, but we're focused on creating a loving, drama-free environment for our future kids. There are still hard days. Holidays are particularly tough, and I sometimes find myself getting emotional over old family photos or memories, but overall, I feel like I'm in a much healthier place now. Looking back on everything that's happened, I don't regret my decisions. Yes, it's been painful and difficult, but it's also been enlightening. I've learned who I can truly count on, and I've grown stronger as a person and as a partner. To anyone dealing with toxic family members, it's okay to prioritize your own happiness and well-being. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Build your own family with people who truly love and support you, whether they're related by blood or not. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your advice and kind words have meant more than you know.